At Bowling Air Force Base, what's some of these tall white Nordics with some military officers? Could you tell us anything about that?
This is a horrible incident that happened at Bowling Air Force Base in the 80s. A group of officers, general officers, colonels, and I think a couple of generals were in a meeting in a secure area of Bowling Air Force Base. And they weren't discussing anything to do with UFOs. They were just there talking about highly classified other projects. When suddenly these strange-looking creatures came through the walls, as told by a couple of the survivors, and they started mutilating and attacking these general officers. Several of their officers suffered very serious injuries, and some of them died. They were after the equipment that was in this room, and the strange thing about it, the equipment they were after was overhead viewers and things like that, a slide presentation machine and a 60-millimeter projector. And nobody seemed to know why and why they would want those items. But these officers were mutilated. Some of them had a.
In what way? Through hand-to-hand combat, or
they were
weapons?
attacking him with their own hands. They were the aliens were putting their hands through the bodies. They were tearing off limbs. There was one lieutenant colonel that lost both arms. There was a general that suffered severe injuries that caused him to be paralyzed, so he had to be medically discharged. There were others. Now there were security forces there. Air Force police, called security police, were there, and they came in when the security police came. They weren't in the room. The security police, they were on the outside of the room,
right? Because
they weren't cleared. But when they got into the room, the entities, these creatures, the Nordics, left.
Did the security police witness this?
The security police didn't actually witness the attack, but they obviously witnessed the injuries that weren't caused by anybody in the room. I mean, these were catastrophic injuries. You can't rip off an arm. A human can't rip off an arm or rip off their own arm. And these arms, arms and leg, I think there was a leg or an ankle or something that was ripped off. Doctors said later that somebody with a huge amount of force would have to rip off an arm from the shoulder. And so I don't believe any of the security forces actually saw it happen. But there were other people that weren't injured in the room. There was a master sergeant that was the projector operator, and there was some other people. There were enlisted people in the room that were aides or something. They weren't injured. It was just the officers that were injured.
So they watched this. Did they get any film of this going on?
No, I don't believe there was any film.
So there was how many survivors?
I think there was 8 survivors.
Out of 12?
8 or 9 survived. I think 2 died and the rest survived. I believe 1 died sometime later, but I don't know the exact numbers.